Hey there. Hey, y'all. This is Ryan with the Live Free Now show. Let me do my best John Bush impression. Welcome to Live Free Now, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free and prosperous and healthy life. Okay, so what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about a little bit of just let me keep stammering and looking for things. I'm looking something up on the internet, so I'm just going to keep talking all slow while I'm looking something up. um, I'm sure that I'm sure John's loving that if he's tuning in. He's down in Morelia, Mexico. Go to the Greater Reset, thegreaterreset.org if you'd like to go check out that live stream after the show, of course. But yeah, check that out. They're doing great things down at the People's Reset. Thegreaterreset.org will bring you to the People's Reset. It's a redirect link kind of deal. So go and check that out. They're going to be doing a lot of great talks. I'm not sure if Becca has gone up yet, but I'm pretty sure that her talk is today. Go and check out Becca's talk. John's lovely wife there. She's absolutely awesome. And she's done a lot of very courageous things recently with her explant surgery and whatnot. So go check out her talk. And yeah, guys. So today I'll be writing solo for the first 30 minutes until we have our guest, Mr. Mike Cobb from ECI Development. He's the CEO over there, and we've built just a phenomenal business relationship with ECI and especially Mike. We went out to Las Vegas last summer to hang out with Mike Cobb, and we were flying planes. We went and had a really nice dinner right after that, although hardly anybody could eat because we were flying like these stunt planes where you could like do barrel rolls and like flip around like this and get all kinds of G-force. Mike Cobb even passed out during during his flight. So yeah, it was a really great time in Vegas with Mike Cobb. We have a great relationship with him. He's actually coming to my wedding in April, so that just shows you how much we value Mike Cobb, his friendship, and our business relationship. But not only that, ECI's got a lot of great things going on over there. We think that they have incredible opportunities. One opportunity that John and Rebecca have taken advantage of is their teak opportunity. Really, really cool opportunity. If you guys are interested at all in connecting and learning more about that teak opportunity, which a lot of our audience ended up taking advantage of last time we rolled that out, please email me at Ryan@livefree.academy. I'll put that in the chat there. So if you guys want to learn more about how to diversify your wealth, diversify your portfolio, and put it in a safe asset that's performed over the last 20 to 30 years, I'd love to have that call with you. Absolutely free. Let's just chat and see if it's a good fit for your portfolio. Catherine Martin, are we all invited to the wedding, Ryan? Unfortunately, I have a max of 250 people allowed at the venue, and I've already invited the 250. If it was 250,000, I'd say yes, bring it. Everybody come on down. We're going to have a giant party, but you better be bringing an envelope to leave afterwards. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, guys, we'll be talking to Mike Cobb a little bit later on about their new webinar that they're going to be doing, all about being a digital nomad. If you're working remotely, then that's going to be a really cool opportunity for you to go see what kind of opportunities and possibilities are out there for you. If you're not necessarily tied to an office like I am, nudge, nudge, John. No, I'm just kidding. But if you're not necessarily tied to an office that you have to be in every day or, a couple times a week, I think my sister has to be in her office like 3 times a week. If that's not the case, then why not check out something like living in Belize for a little while you're doing your job remotely. So a lot of really cool opportunities. Mike Cobb will be explaining much more about those when we talk to him a little later on. But I'd like to get a little off the rails since John's not here. He usually keeps me pretty tame, although I have my moments still. But I thought we'd get an opportunity to learn a little bit more about me. Obviously, you guys know a ton about John, his daily emails, all of his various stories, the hundreds of videos he's posted on his YouTube channel, the various webinars. A lot of people really know a lot about John and his background. So I thought I'd give a little bit of mine. I'm relatively new to the show here. I've been with Live Free Academy for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years this May. But, doing more shows, doing more webinars. I led the Exit and Build Health Summit last year, which was last year, 2023. So I guess, I'll say that it was in December 2023 when I led the Exit and Build Health Summit. So, doing more things on camera and whatnot. You guys may be wondering, who is this guy? What's his deal? So, formally, I am the Vice President of Sales with Live Free Academy. And like I said, I'll be here for 3 years in May if John is on his best behavior. I'll be here for 3 years, and mainly I get sponsorships for our events. I help people if they're looking for a particular course or something like that. I'll help them decide if the course is actually good for them. I actually just wrapped up some calls for our Bitcoin basics offer. And, there's a couple of people, they told me, I already have a bunch of Bitcoin and I know how to do this. I have a private wallet, and, they were pretty advanced, but they were still wondering, like, Ryan, should I take this course? And I told them, like, actually, no, this course isn't for you. You've already got all of these things dialed in. You've already got your Monero. You've already got your Bitcoin. You know how to do all the things. You've bought peer-to-peer. This course isn't for you. So I'm not just in it to sell people regardless. That I want to make sure that they're a good fit. So I bring on a lot of sponsors for our events. I make sure that our courses are good fits for folks and various things like that. Although I started in this role from, I guess I'll go back a little bit further. So let's see, where should we start? Maybe like 8th grade. So that's really where the story like all unfolds. So I, in 8th grade, got arrested for stealing from cars. Like me and my douchebag friends, we would go around and we would lift handles of cars to see if the cars were open. And if they were open, we weren't like smashing windows or anything. But if the cars were open, we would go inside and rummage around and see if there was anything in there that was worth looting, I guess you could say. Yeah, we stole it. One time we found a laptop in someone's car and we dug a hole in their front yard and buried the laptop in the hole. Which is a total I get it. I know you guys are all like, "Oh, Ryan, how could you do that?" It's like it was 8th grade, Ryan. It's not right now, Ryan. So we did that, unfortunately. And I guess definitely fortunately, we got caught. So one night we went out and did this, and we got chased by the police. I ended up getting home okay, but a couple of my other buddies, they got caught and arrested, and they were 8th graders, so they gave me up right away. And then the cops show up at my house, and I had to go put on handcuffs in front of my mom, which totally sucked. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. Totally sucks to get put in handcuffs in front of your loved ones. So yeah, that happened. They ended up just sending us to juvie for one single day, like one night. We spent one night in juvie, and that was enough to like scare us straight and never do it again. But my love at the time, my love had always been football. So I got suspended from the football team for a whole year, which was crushing. Football was my whole deal. I guess besides sneaking out at night and stealing from cars, that was my other deal. But my main deal was football. And so when I got suspended from the football team for the whole year, that really sucked. But then the very next year, in sophomore year, I ended up being a starter. I was always really good at football. So I ended up starting sophomore year, and I got promoted to varsity as a sophomore for the playoffs. Didn't play too much, and then in junior year, for whatever reason, I think it was like some kind of nepotism or something. For whatever reason, even after being promoted to varsity as a sophomore, like I wasn't starting junior year on varsity. And there was someone starting who was like in my grade. They were starting over me, and there was always like this chatter, like, why is he starting over Ryan? Like we don't get it. And so like the first 2.5 games, I didn't play, and I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna leave football. Like I'll just get into something else, which would have been a horrible idea. I'm glad that I didn't end up doing that. Because then in the third game of the season, after halftime, where I was like really considering, like, I'm just done. Then someone ends up getting hurt at my position. They put me in, and I end up like just going crazy, just like tackle after tackle, sacks, everything. I end up becoming the defensive player of the week for our conference. And I only played one half of football. So after that, they're like, okay, he's starting now. Like defensive player of the week for the conference, and he only played one half. Like he's a starter. So I started the rest of the season, and then my main goal, and this is a time in my life that I always look back on with reverence, is my main goal at the time after junior year. Spoiler alert, we went undefeated during the regular season, and then we lost the first game in the playoffs, which really sucked. It was heartbreaking. Everybody like kind of expected us to win state. And I had something to prove for senior year. Like we all kind of had that chip on our shoulder. It's like we should have won. Like next year, we're definitely going to win. So senior year, I go, like my whole focus is becoming a captain of the football team. Like I want to become a captain. But again, like there was like nepotism. My parents weren't in with all of the coaches. So at first it was like the kids who had parents that were like networkers and rubbing shoulders with all of the coaches, they all got to be captains, and I wasn't like named a captain, even though like a bunch of my fellow teammates, it was like a voting kind of thing. So a bunch of my teammates had voted for me to be captain, and I knew that, and they had told me that, and I was just like, okay, like what the hell? So I faced a choice. I'm like, I can go one of two ways. I can either go this way, where I, just throw in the towel. They're just going to pick these kids, not me, to be captain. So I'm not going to try anymore. Or I could be like, I'm going to double down and make sure that they know without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, that I am a captain. And that's the road that I ended up picking. So I worked my ass off. I went to every single workout. I even went to the makeup workouts on the weekends. They would have these workouts that, people would, or like guys who played in other sports during the week, they could go to the workouts on the weekends to make up for the workouts that they missed during the week. Well, I would go to both. I would go to the workouts during the week, and I would go to the workouts on the weekend. Because I'm like, there's not going to be one person in this high school that doesn't know that I deserve to be captain. And so like I was one of the strongest guys on the team at the time, not bragging. It just was what it was. And I was a varsity starter the year before. And then so the first day of training camp, after practice, the head coach called me up and said that I was going to be a captain. Got a big round of applause. It was a very endearing moment. But the thing that I remember most, and the thing that I like revere the most about that time, was that I was so dedicated. I was so focused. Like there was nothing that was going to stop me from achieving that goal. Like, I was a typical high school kid going to parties, drinking, all that stuff. But like the summer, or like after we lost junior year in that game, I never drank. I never went to a party. I never thought about anything other than becoming a captain and winning the state championship football game for my high school, which was Batavia High School in Illinois. Which now they're perennial playoff contenders and everything like that. And they're in the state championship almost every year, which was not the case when I was in school. So when I became captain, we end up losing the second game in our season, which, we thought we were going to go undefeated again. And then we lose the second game in the season, and it was a gut check for us. And we're just like, damn, we never thought we were going to lose. We thought we were this shit. So we end up winning all of the rest of the games of the season, like pretty much blow everybody out. Then we go into the playoffs, start blowing out teams again. We had one close game, and it was like one of those really shitty Illinois days where it was just raining and thunderstorming the entire time. And, there was some interceptions thrown because the weather was so bad, and there were some fumbles, and there was this and there was that. So it was a really close game, but we grinded it out and we won. Then the next game we played, I think they were called Rockford Boylan. And at the time they were like powerhouses. They had gone to state a bunch of years in a row. And, they thought that, or we had to go play them at their field. So they're like, oh, they're going to come up here. We're just going to wipe the floor with them. We ended up beating them 37-6. It was like negative 20 degrees out that day. It totally sucked. I mean, like tackling people, you fell on the ground. It felt like concrete. But, yeah, so we whooped their ass, and then we end up in the state championship game facing the team that we lost to in the second game of the season. So it was like this big rematch game. Their name was the Bulldogs. We were the Bulldogs. And then we're just like, okay, this is the game. And so throughout the whole playoffs, their defense had only allowed I don't know, maybe 7 points, the whole playoffs. Like there's 4 games in the playoffs in high school. So they had only allowed 7 points the entire time. Their defense had a bunch of guys that were going to D1 schools, which D1 is the highest level that you can go. That's like the Ohio States and the Wisconsins and Michigan and Alabama, Georgia, all those kinds of schools. Those are D1 schools. So they had 3 commits on their defense to go to D1 schools. So they were just wiping the floor with a bunch of random high schoolers who were never going to play again after high school. But, we end up winning the state championship game 34-14. We put up 34 on them. They hadn't even, given up 7 points the rest of the playoffs. So that was one of my crowning achievements earlier in life, was being a captain and being a state championship. The first state championship in school history, and the first one that we had won in over 100 years. The other team that won was a basketball team, high school basketball team that won back in 1908. So we won in 2013, and there were a lot of celebrations in town, and it was great to see the town show out for us. We were at NIU Stadium. That's where we played the championship game at, and a bunch of people showed out from town, and it was awesome to play in front of that crowd. But after that, I got recruited for college, and I went to one of the best D3 schools. D3 is the lowest for the college, for college football. Although there's a bunch of D3 players that are in the NFL right now. So D3 isn't by any means, a bunch of chumps or anything like that. It's really, really good high school football players. So I end up going to one of the best schools in Division III for college football, and I end up breaking my ankle twice. So I didn't end up sticking around for too long. So I broke my ankle once. 6 weeks later, broke it again, and I was done. I was like, I'm not going to keep breaking my ankle. Plus, I had this coach that was a total son of a bitch, and I really, really did not like him. But I was just kind of done with that process. And then I started visiting all my friends at college and partying with them. And then I went to I went to community college for a couple of years. And then this is like another thing that another pivotal moment in my story is I when I went to community college, I developed a love for philosophy. I took a philosophy course just like as, whatever, it's just part of my credits or, what I got to do to get my associates. Um, so I take a philosophy course, end up falling in love with philosophy. But the thing that happens, I end up taking two more philosophy courses. The thing that happens is that I lose my faith. I stop being a Christian. I was raised a Catholic. And when I went into philosophy, I started questioning God, whether God even existed. I became a very hardcore militant atheist. And for years, I thought that, if you believed in God, you were stupid. I used to sit around and watch Lawrence Krauss lectures. I used to study like the problem of evil, all of these really hardcore things and atheist topics. I thought I was, one of the smartest atheists that I could debunk any kind of Christian argument. And and that's how I was for a long time. And then I started working at FedEx, delivering packages, and I was just listening to podcasts all day. And one time I'm listening to Joe Rogan, and Eddie Bravo is on there, and Eddie Bravo is like, "Hey, I was just on the Tinfoil Hat podcast talking about this and this conspiracy." And I was like, "Conspiracies?" I'm like, "Well, that sounds fun." Like, I wasn't turned off by the idea of conspiracies. I was like, "Okay, let me dive into this a little bit." I'm a curious guy. I'd like to learn more about conspiracies. Even if they may not be true, I'll just like learn about it. So I go to Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli. God bless Sam Tripoli. He's absolutely awesome, and he's done a lot of great work to wake a lot of people up, and especially myself. So I have a very soft spot in my heart for Sam. Met him several times too. He's a great guy. But so I started listening to Tinfoil Hat, and I started learning about JFK and the moon landing. And then, this guy, Charlie Robinson, comes on Tinfoil Hat. And he starts talking about, the Smith-Munt, what is it? The new act that they passed in like 2012, like right before Sandy Hook and all of those kinds of things started really popping off. And so I'm like, whoa, all right, look, like conspiracy is getting a little too real. I'm like, now I'm finding about like real shit. Not to say that the moon landing being fake isn't real, and 9/11 and all that stuff. That's kind of like the tip of the iceberg, right? But once you start getting into the deeper levels of conspiracy, especially like vaccines, for me, that was like a barrier where I literally like I was listening to this podcast. The Grimerica podcast, really great podcast. Graham and Darren, they've had John on several times. It's always a pleasure talking with those guys. But Graham and Darren from the Grimerica podcast, they had on Del Bigtree. I know you guys all know that name. So I felt like Del used to go a lot harder back in the day, but he still does great work. So I'm listening to Del on the Grimerica show, and they're taught like Dell's just bringing up all of this stuff. And like there was a study done by this guy named, I believe it was Paul Thomas, and they took 500 vaccinated kids versus 500 unvaccinated kids. And the unvaccinated kids had like no issues whatsoever, but the vaccinated kids had a laundry list of ADD, ADHD, Crohn's, IBS, depression, just like a crazy amount of things. While these unvaccinated kids had like no issues whatsoever. So it just showed like, okay, well, there's only one thing here that's preventing these kids from being sick and not sick, and that's the amount of vaccines that they're taking. And so when I was listening to all this information, I literally shut off the podcast. And I was like, I am crossing a Rubicon here into an area that I don't know if I want to get into. First conspiracy was fun. Now it's getting real. Now it's like, if I go down this road and find out all this stuff, I'll probably end up an anti-vaxxer, a pariah. Even before COVID, people forget how bad it was to be an anti-vaxxer. If you were an anti-vaxxer, you were like a scum of the earth piece of shit. So when I started getting into anti-vaccine research, I was like, I'm crossing a Rubicon here, and I need to make a decision now, not just for vaccines, but for other topics that like nothing's off board. Am I here for the truth, or am I here to see what makes me feel good? And so I decided that I'm here for the truth. And I went down the vaccine rabbit hole. And as most of you guys know, vaccines are total bullshit. I don't think that you need to take a single one, especially not these cocktails that they're making. Like there's like the DTaP vaccine and measles, mumps, and rubella. Like they mix them all together and they shoot your kid full of it. And it's just like a deadly cocktail, which one, they've never tested that. They've never tested mixing all of those ones together, shooting it to your kid, and then seeing that everything works out fine. So I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but like that was my big moment of like awakening was vaccines. I was like, okay, vaccines are total bullshit. And then I started going into, some of the various school shootings, and, I could talk ad nauseum about some of those. But then the real thing that led me back onto the path of spirituality, which is what I really wanted to talk about, was, I started getting into occult practices and specifically like ritual sacrifices and people worshiping Satan and demons and these kinds of things. And then, I was an atheist. So like I'm like researching vaccines and all these conspiracies, still an atheist. But then I start getting into the spiritual side of conspiracy. And I'm like, okay, these people are what I've realized is that these people are pragmatists. They're not going to be doing like demonic rituals and satanic rituals just for shits and gigs. They're not doing these things because they can, or they're powerful, or they have so many pleasures in life that they just need to take it that much further. No, they're doing it for power, fame, glory, more money, all these various things. So they're pragmatists. They want to do things that work. So I think that they perform these satanic rituals and these ritual sacrifices of kids and other adults and celebrities and stuff like that to gain power, fame, money, all those kinds of things that I listed earlier. And I eventually came to the inevitable conclusion when you study all these events, like the McMartin preschool thing and the West Memphis 3, which Damien Echols is not innocent in that. He's now out and about and going on podcasts saying he was innocent, but he pled guilty and he said things that he did in that case that only the one who would have murdered and sacrificed, ritually, satanically sacrificed that boy, Damien Echols, did that. He for sure did that. And, Alex Securis did a lot of great work of the Skeptico podcast, along with William Ramsey from William Ramsey Investigates. Damien Echols, he's an occultist, and he did an occult ritual sacrifice that he ended up getting caught for. So I wouldn't fall for a lot of his BS that he goes out and promoting. Anyway, I start researching all of those kinds of things and realizing, okay, there are entities outside of our physical realm of experience. So then I'm like, okay, well, those things exist. The demonic, satanic elements of entities exist. Then the inverse must be true, right? There must be God. There must be angels. There must be this, beautiful, loving element instead of like the hating and despising and evil element. So I started going down that rabbit hole, ended up listening to Alex Securis, who I just mentioned, his Skeptico podcast. He's huge into near-death experience research. And then I found through Alex Securis, there's this guy, Jeffrey Long. He has over 5,000 near-death experiences cataloged where people unequivocally state that there is an afterlife. And so I'm like, wow, this is amazing. There is an afterlife. And, this isn't just it. There's much more to this realm than just the physical experience. And what I've been getting into lately is this guy, Father Seraphim Rose. I'm really, really captivated by Orthodox Christianity, thinking about becoming a convert and entering into the church. But I'm like right now just doing my due diligence. And Father Seraphim Rose, he wrote a book all about nihilism and how nihilism is like the great evil that's facing our time and our culture. A lot of people think that we're just here for a short time. What's the old expression? YOLO, you only live once. And there's a very like hedonistic, nihilistic tendency in the YOLO expression, which I believe was implanted into our culture by the powers that shouldn't be, for that purpose, to spread and create more nihilistic tendencies amongst people. So that goes to say near-death experience research is amazing, and it proves without a shadow of a doubt that there is an afterlife. However, Father Seraphim Rose also wrote another book called The Soul After Death. And The Soul After Death outlines how a lot of these near-death experiences are actually like more akin to occult type practices and stuff like that than the real Christian death. Because there is a real Christian death. And I believe that, you do meet Jesus and you do meet God. But I'm only 15 pages into the book. So I'll have to update you guys more in the next episode, or, wherever I finish the book on his full thoughts of the matter. So really excited about that. And one last thing that I'll say, and I see that our guest Mike Cobb is here, so we're gonna completely switch gears into a completely different topic. But the last thing that I'll say is, for a lot of you that are like, oh, Ryan, the Christian thing, like you're going down the wrong path, like it's obviously totally debunked by now. Don't you know about the Council of Nicaea and how Constantine totally altered the Bible and all these things? I've actually been doing a ton of research into that lately, and a lot of that is just blatantly not true. There's one of the first iterations of the Bible is called the Codex Sinaiticus, and it was written in the 3rd century, so like 200 plus AD. And the crucifixion, all of these elements that we see in the King James Bible, in the English Standard Version, all these things, all these versions that we have today are in like the original texts of the Bible. And the Council of Nicaea is not what we really think of as conspiracy theorists. Not at all what I thought of it. I thought the Council of Nicaea was a smoking gun that the church went in and took out books and all these kinds of things, when that's absolutely not the case. A further examination of the Council of Nicaea does not bear that out at all. So I would just encourage a lot of you, a great starting point, go check out the Wes Huff and Billy Carson debate that they just did. Wes smoked him, and Billy was going on all these podcasts like Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David, telling them that, Jesus wasn't crucified, God's a female, all of these kinds of things that are blatantly not true. Wes just kind of gave him the smackdown. And what's so brilliant about the smackdown that Wes gave Billy was that he did it totally humbly. He didn't rub it in his face. He didn't make him feel stupid. Billy might have felt stupid, but that wasn't Wes's aim. Wes was just, being kind and considerate, and just kind of like telling Billy, well, I don't think that's necessarily true, Billy, because first off, you're referencing the Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible isn't a real thing. It's actually called Codex Sinaiticus. And and Billy was saying that the crucifixion is not in Codex Sinaiticus. And Wes is like, oh, I've actually got a copy right here. And yeah, it's right here in Matthew. It says that the crucifixion it's right here. I can point to it in Codex Sinaiticus. So it was just great to see an absolute smackdown. And the thing that I'll end on there is that the Bible has stood the test of time. Throughout all of the criticism, throughout all of the things that people tried to say about it, it stood the test of time. It really has. And has been unaltered pretty much mostly. All of the things that have happened, Council of Nicaea, books being added, not added, certain books not making the cut, those were all for like very calculated reasons. And the early Christians were super discerning of outside influences trying to alter the message of Jesus. And so they took a lot of great precaution to make sure that the original doctrine and the apostles and that their word and testimony was unaltered. And it's really, really fascinating. So I encourage everybody to go check out Wes Huff and a lot of his research. And also check out Father Seraphim Rose. The man is absolutely awesome. Only lived to be 48. He died in 1982, but he was just he's a very, very smart man. And if you're interested about orthodoxy, there's this channel on YouTube called Harmony that it has absolutely amazing, stunning Orthodox videos that are really captivating. So I check those out if you guys are interested. But without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Mike Cobb. Let's see if I can do this correctly.
Hey,
there he is.
How you
What
doing,
up,
man?
Cabarino?
I loved it. When I saw that email, I'm like, all right, I'm going with Cabarino. By the way, you said you had 20 nicknames for me, and I'm sure the other 19 are not as flattering, so we're good with that.
Yeah. The other 19 we can't say on camera.
Okay, good. Hey, we had some fun in Las Vegas, didn't we? Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
I was telling everybody about that earlier on in the show. Oh my gosh. I was telling them how you got knocked out from your plane ride.
Yep. Yeah. Fun times. I hope if folks decide they're going to Vegas that they'll go check out the Sky Combat Ace. I mean, it is an unbelievable experience, an adrenaline rush unlike anything you may ever experience in your life. So yeah.
And guys, you get to fly the planes yourself. Like they let you take over the controls and start steering the plane, doing the tricks.
Yep.
But there's a trained pilot right behind you, and he can take over if anything gets squirrely. But
exactly. Yeah. And then if you decide you want to get put out, the first time I did it, I did not get put out because I just grunted my way through it like they say you're supposed to, like on the G-forces. But the guy asked me this time, he's like, all right, well, last time you didn't go out, you want to go out this time? I'm like, sure. It was definitely a weird experience. Once. I'm glad I did it once. Probably not doing it again. So.
Oh yeah, I know John and Becca definitely aren't doing it again. I'd be tempted. I had a good time.
No, I would do the plane again. I wouldn't get knocked out a second time.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. So you enjoyed it. I remember you said you really, really enjoyed the acrobatics and aerobatics, I guess.
Elizabeth, not so much. You know, she was in the bathroom for like a good 15 minutes.
Yeah. But, it definitely tests your stomach, you know. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know, Mike, since I was just going on this big like soliloquy about you know, Christianity and stuff like that, I just wonder, you know, as we make this transition here, do you have any thoughts about spirituality or Christianity?
Wow. Okay. Interesting way to start a conversation. I don't think. No, yeah, happy to engage it. Let me think about that. Yeah, I have lots of thoughts. By the way, I have lots of thoughts on spirituality. You know, that many of the world are dogmas, right? Christian.
Hey, Mike, your internet's a little messed up there.
What?
It's all there we go. No, getting you back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna close out. We good?
It's all pixelated and you got the robotic voice going.
How's that?
Still not great.
No. Weird.
Is everybody else if someone in the chat could let me know, can everybody see me fine? Is it just Mike with the issue? Let me know in the chat. I don't even know if Mike's still there. Hey, Mike, if you can hear me, you might pop out and pop back in if you can. Thanks for letting me know, Catherine. All right. Well, Mike is okay. Yeah, he popped out. All right. Well, Mike is doing that. I'm actually going to share this with you guys real quick. So ECI is doing a let's see if we can do this little deal. Nah, we got to make that big screen. Okay, ECI is doing a free webinar called the Remote Renaissance. It's February 4th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And this is all about if you guys are working from home and you don't have to be in the office, then and you can just work remotely wherever, then ECI is doing this free webinar all about like how can you do that? What are some of the opportunities that are available to you? So you might be interested. Like the title of the show is like from cubicles to cabanas. Why not do your work underneath a cabana, sipping a mojito, getting work done while you're really enjoying the sunshine and the beach and everything like that. So why just work, at home in your little, 2-bedroom apartment or something like that when you can have this kind of opportunity available to you. So you can register completely for free. And again, it's on February 4th, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And what you're going to learn in the webinar, you can live anywhere and work anywhere. Smart property investments. ECI has a lot of amazing investments that even Live Free Academy has taken advantage of. John and Becca are owners of one of their teak parcels, and also they have Second Residency Made Simple, Central America's Hidden Opportunities. We'll get more into when Cobb's able to get back in here. We'll get more into why Central America, what makes that place so unique, and why is that such a good investment location. And then also life beyond borders. A lot of us think like, what, or maybe not even think. We're just like, let's just stay in the U.S. when we can broaden our horizons. There's a lot more things that we can do outside of the U.S. Just this year, I always thought to myself, I'm like, I don't need to leave the U.S. I like it here. I like what I like. I have my creature comforts. I don't need to travel outside of the country. But then, my lovely wife Elizabeth, she put me on her pass, so I get free flights to basically wherever I want to go. And so we went to Costa Rica, we went to Puerto Rico, although that's in the United States. I'd never been off the mainland. So I went to Puerto Rico, I went to Costa Rica, I went to Italy, the UK, just went to a lot of various places, and it was absolutely awesome. So for a lot of you that are thinking you just got to stay in the United States, I would encourage you to broaden your horizons. And it looks like Cobb is back. Let's bring him back in.
I am good throughput, so sorry for bearing with
It's
me.
all good. You're still a little pixelated, but it sounds like the audio is a little better.
Really?
So hopefully this works.
All right. Okay. They say I have a face for radio, so
Well, all right, Mike. So let's talk a little bit about the webinar that you guys got coming up on February the 4th, 6 p.m. Eastern time. What was the impetus to get that underway?
Look, we are huge on helping understand that there are better ways to live overseas. I mean, I lived in Nicaragua for 14 years, and people just find that really hard to believe. They've heard lots of things about Nicaragua, and I always say, go for yourself. Don't believe everything. Believe everything you hear. And the best judge of whether something is a good idea for you to check it out, right? But Nicaragua with my wife and my 2 daughters, 14 years, and we loved it. The point of it is that there are incredible quality elements and incredible cost of living reductions go hand in hand when we move to many parts of the world, not all parts of the world, If you wanted to move to France or something, I mean, more expensive, right? But there are world where it costs a lot less to live, truly, in my mind, a higher thing from eating organic. I mean, we just talk about going down to whole paycheck, right? You go to Whole Foods, you want to buy a grocery bag of organic produce, fruits. You're going to spend, $500. I mean, it's outrageous how expensive it is. A coffee sack, organic fruits and vegetables once a week, delivered to our home, $8, right? And we couldn't even eat it all in a week. And so, I mean, you just think about one example like that where the quality of life goes way, way up because you're eating really, really healthy, and living goes way, way down. And there are numerous like that. And so what we try to do is get the good news out there, right? Make sure that people are out this incredible opportunity. It does not have to be Nicaragua. It could be Belize, Panama. It could be Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, all countries that I have visited. And wonderful places around the world that you can find this, I call it the paradox, the higher quality of life, lower cost of living paradox. So that's really the mind. Is we really want to get the good news out, make sure people have access to the information that to them, so that they can then follow up ideas and opportunities that would be a good fit for them.
Got it, totally. And I guess I'll start peppering you with a few questions here. And I was wondering, like, so you guys have obviously seen a huge surge since COVID of people doing remote work. Have you guys personally seen a lot of people like moving to your communities and such ever since the COVID scamdemic?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And the answer is yes, we have. That when you have really good internet. I'm in Shepherdstown, which might explain why my internet's not so great. But lots of places, including Grand Pacifica, for example, one of our communities, but also our communities in Belize and other places. The internet is really, really and reliable that allows people who can work remotely to be able to do so. And that's really it. If you're allowed to work from home, then home really be anywhere. And what's kind of interesting is there's a stereotypical nomad, and that's the young, whatever 30s who's working from their laptop, or the pictures of it, they're sitting at their laptop at the beach, beautiful setting. But the reality, which is very, very cool, is that so many nomad people in their 50s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, moving to the location that they always wanted to move to, right? I've always wanted to, spend time diving, fishing. I can move to Belize now, continue to work my job for 10 years until I retire, but I get to begin to enjoy the things that I've always wanted in retirement, but I get to do it 10 years early. And so, yes, people are already, the scamdemic, as you call it, or plandemic, we saw a lot of people buy the properties, make the move. But let me offer a word of caution. Made the move sight unseen. They were motivated very, very, I think, correctly by what was happening with the response to, by the very world. And so they said, "Oh my gosh, I got to get out." And they just simply, and they moved. And you know what? For a big chunk of folks, people, adventurous spirit, moving overseas is a fairly easy transition. But there will be such thing as a rose bush without thorns. There are thorns when you country. Culture shock is sort of what we sometimes call it, right? But there can be other things too. There can be legal hassles, immigration hassles, things like that. There are thorns in the rose bush. And so one of the things is when we have the opportunity to take our time, right, with caution, to slow down, jammed up against the wall. Oh my goodness, I better make this decision. Things are really, really going off the rails. When we have the time And we do have the time right now to proceed with caution, go slow. I think a lot of people were to put plywood up on their windows, as the hurricane rolled in, right? Probably better than nothing, of course, right? But the best time to put on your windows before a hurricane is while the sun's still shining, before the rain starts, before that's where we are today. Seeing a hurricane come through, we know it's possible in a hurricane. Show me your pay. We're gonna freeze your bank account in Canada because group, right? I mean, we saw these happen, lockdowns, right? Closures of businesses. We had a hurricane come through. Well, you know what? That one, some people, whatever, made decisions that for many weren't. I'll be very honest. We've had people that moved to some, and the culture shock absolutely kicked their butt. Thought it would never be what they hoped it would be, because it's just a developing country, right? Is that it's a developing country? It's got pluses and minuses, and those are different, so to speak. But now that hurricane's passed, we have this unique opportunity. The sun shining. There's more hurricanes coming across right now, right? I mean, they're coming. We know they're coming, and if we use this opportunity of a Sunday, plywood up on the windows, when that next hurricane hits, we will be prepared. Really, what this webinar does, Ryan, it gives the ability to start thinking about the plywood. What kind of plywood do I want? How do I want to protect myself, protect my family? When that hurricane comes, information in the research is critical, right? You do paper research first. I want to call it right, but then you have the time now and go visit a country or two, three. See how they fit. How they hit your heart, because at the end of the day, ultimately, life about how we feel about, right? An investment decision's a head decision, right? And so we might do something like this, but the and plan and types of decisions are really decisions. They're affective decisions. They're heart decisions. And so it's really important, do our paper research or our electronic, but then also, go put our feet on the ground, eyeballs there, and see how we feel. And we have this opportunity, right? And so first step is to come to a webinar, request some of the information, some of the free resources that we have. Make some trips. I know, you guys have a great event coming up in the spring, which is appropriately named, right? Exit and build, and so that, and that's a great opportunity to do maybe what I would call an intermediate step, right? You come to, you get some information, you come to me and some of the folks in our team, and have some very personal discussion. What's important to you? What would you like? What don't you think you would not like? Or that was a double negative, but you know what I'm saying? What you might not like, right? We have that kind of discussion, and then, we can, two countries or these three countries really might be a fit for you to go visit. I think that's really a very, very good process that people can take to get it right the first time. With text title of my book, How to Overseas and Get It First Time. That's what we want. We want folks to really first time, and we do that through a very slow, concrete methodology of due visit transaction. Anyway, that's what we're doing.
Absolutely, Ryan. Love that. And guys, if that at all sounds interesting to you, please look at the link in the description. You can click that and sign up right away, totally free, to join Mike and his team for the webinar. But Mike, some people might be wondering, do you have any examples of people who have worked with y'all, or do work with y'all that have implemented this digital nomad kind of strategy?
Absolutely. We have a lot of people on our team. We have companies now for 29 years. We started our ECI development 29 years ago, and because we operate in multiple countries, we have always been a remote digital nomad organization, back when it was machines, which is kind of crazy. I mean, we started this whole remote phone and fax machine, and obviously the technology has gotten far better. But I'll give you an example of a couple, Sasha, who moved. He is an architect. She is a musician. He does from Gran Pacifica, which is in Nicaragua, and they have this incredible lifestyle that they love and enjoy, and to live in a wonderful place. Yet he continues to do the work that he absolutely loves from Gran Pacifica. So Grant and Sasha would be a tremendous example. There's another for a Silicon Valley company. I don't have his permission to say his name or where he works, but he works for a very famous Silicon, and he bought a home at, goodness, 15, 18 years ago, and now works in California a few months, and in Nicaragua. He's a surfer. He specifically location because of the excellent surf breaks. We have 2 surf breaks, and he's really a phenomenal surfer. And so definitely people who are doing it, and that would be the thing, right? That you want to come and visit. Like, then you can actually meet the people who are already doing it and get their opinion. Again, they're going to add in the ugly, because in any place in the world, in any lifestyle experience, we have all, right? We just have to decide if the good outweighs the bad. Many people, and if you're one of them, then the world is truly. If it don't, maybe there are other ways to sort of protect yourself, and from a freedom standpoint, right, and a liberty standpoint. But that I would say, Ryan, is having gotten to know many of them in your organization, not just in your organization, but coming to your conference, Exit and Build. The last few years we've been presenting there, and some of the other events we've tied in with one another. You really hold together a tribe of people, have this incredible adventure, and of all the things that make a difference on whether somebody is going to be successful when they move over or not successful, spirit of adventure is absolutely number one. Sense of humor, that's a big one. A sense of humor will get you through a lot of uncomfortable circumstances and situations that might flummox you otherwise. So a sense of adventure, a sense of humor, and the last one actually is also critically important, of humility. Because when we go somewhere new, we understand moving somebody else's home, so to speak. It's their country. It's not our country. It's their country. And if we move his home, or we go to somebody's home as a guest, we need to act like a guest. And when we do that with a humble attitude, well received as a guest. And my saying is, leave the wood pile a little higher when I leave. And so we come in as a guest, maybe we take the trash out, whatever. We get involved in things that make a difference in people's lives. Working in a clinic, or working with a school group, or a faith-based organization, there are a myriad of possibilities of ways that we can become involved, improve the lives of the people in the country that we now call home, right? The other benefit, and I would say it's equally important, is that when you're doing those kinds of things, generally you're working with people who share a similar desire, right? They want to go clean the beach, or they want to do a rescue program, or they want to help a sustainable garden, or whatever it happens to be. Maybe there's a health related health passion. That one I love, because we've done a lot with training, management training, part of what we do, but all the other things too, the environmental, the agricultural, the health-oriented types of things. But when you alongside other people in those kinds of projects, you get to know them and you start to build community. Because at the end of the day, right, what we really want are friends and peers and unity, because that's the true hallmark of quality of life. That's the pinnacle of quality of life. And so it sounds great to make an emergence, how to get out of Dodge, things here to, protect my liberty, protect my freedom, protect, those are extremely important to do something. But to our new location, right? How do we build meaningful? How do we build meaningful relationships, friendships, and how do we do things that our lives as a member of a community, right? I think those are the things, and getting involved in organizations like a faith organization, or Rotary, or Alliance Club, or even privately, just working in those things. We really do. We can check a lot of win-win-win, right? We're a win for the we're helping. We're a win for our community, but we're also winning ourselves because we're making friends and that are meaningful and significant.
Totally, absolutely love that. And some people might be like, okay, this is sounding really good to me, but I don't really want to deal with the whole process of attaining a second residency or buying a property outside of the United States. That just sounds like a total headache. Does ECI help them navigate those waters at all?
And you know what, Ryan? It is a headache. It is a headache. To be very clear, it's a big pain in the butt, right? But we have to look at that. Is it worth it, right? And a lot of people, I just wrote it kind of fresh in my mind. It's probably going to get published in the next couple of days, and it's this idea of what I call asset protection, right? When I say asset protection, speak at a lot of conferences and talk to a lot of folks, I say asset. Immediately, I am sure 99% of those minds, they think of things. Asset protection. I need to get an offshore account. I need to put my properties in a corporation, right? I mean, they're thinking about ways to protect things. Asset protection. That first thought that most people get is protection of things. Ryan, the most important asset we have is this, right? It's us. We are the most important asset we have. And without our liberty and our freedom, what do we really have, right? If our ability to think and create and earn money, right, goes away because our liberty either stays all through incarceration, right? I mean, when somebody's bank account, you've taken away some of their liberty. Jail, right? But you've frozen a big chunk of their liberty away, right? When you say, hey, you have to stay at home, right? Not in jail, but people are on. And so the point is that when we talk about asset protection, the first is the protection of the single most important asset, us. And that means the protection of our liberty. Yes, getting is a pain in the butt, full on, thorny, lots of thorns in that rose bush, lots of them. But you put on some Carhartt gloves, get out your clippers, because that rose bush is the best smelling rose, right? It's the rose of liberty. It's the rose that gives us the ability to do the things to create more thing assets, right? At the end of the day, if we lost all of our thing assets, maintained our liberty, right, we could start over again and we could build new bank accounts, new home, new assets, new stocks, whatever cars, whatever the right? But we have to start with this in order to get to that. And so, yes, it's a pain in the butt. To answer your question, yes, ECI and our property and residence consultants, and we call them that, property and residency consultants, extremely well versed in this, and it's a very worn path. It's not an it's actually a path, right? It's not an easy path because there'll be lots of things that come up, but it's simple. And truth be told, if you're working with one of the property who then works with the country of where your residency or where you're applying for residency, we can get it done. We do get it done, and that's what matters, right? Getting it done. But it'll be a bumpy road. There's no two ways about that. It's always worth it. When you have a second res, I have mine, and property consultants and residency consultants that hack residencies outside the U.S. I mean, we the hair. I probably should be a member of it, but I'm not. But you've seen that ad where the guy goes, I'm not just selling or whatever. I mean, the whole point is our property consultants and residency consultants, they are in most cases residents of a foreign country. We believe in what we do, right? And we believe in the importance of having that residency, even though it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to get.
Totally. And, I kind of want to stay in that same vein because, we've got to overcome objections, right? Immediately when you present to people that, hey, you should consider moving outside of the country, or at least having a plan B outside of the country, all of these defenses come up maybe. So I guess what would be some of the other challenges that someone would have to overcome, maybe like integrating into the local culture, or, some of those aspects that someone else would also have to think about, some challenges that they would have to overcome?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me offer this idea, Brian, that Plan B resident simply means you have a residency of some type that allows you resident in a country for life. So let me I'll use Panama, for example. A permanent residency in Panama, like you have forever. It gives you to move to Panama and live there for as long to the rest of your life, right? That is an insurance policy. And that's what a Plan B residency really is. It's an insurance policy. It's freedom insurance. It's insurance. And, I think a few people out there really hope, go off the rails so they can live that life that they've been. But the vast majority of people, I want things off the, because it'll be rough, not key. It'll be ugly, right? I hope I'm prepared are prepared until it happens, but I've done the kinds of things to be prepared for things going off the rails. But I don't hope all of the preparation that I have done, including a residency for myself, and I actually hope that that's simply and I hate to say wasted money, but I am a Boy Scout, or was I do believe in prepared, and we want to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And the residency can simply be keeping our purse, or in a safety deposit box, or in our safe in our home, whatever it is. But stuff goes off the rails, we are prepared to go to a foreign country for as long as we want, as long as we choose. That's powerful protection. That's real liberty insurance. To kind of evolve into the question you ask, Ryan, is yes, when you move country, I'm different. Absolutely. We have a guest. In fact, maybe what I'll do is I'll start the webinar. If anyone here, I think, and maybe I can ask if she can make it, that on that webinar, I want to do our little to live overseas quiz. It's a great 15 question, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, kind of go through it. And it's the best ever for our youth kind of person to live overseas. And it doesn't really attack any of these things shock head on. But I alluded to one of the things, humor, right? I think that's one of the things quiz. And so there are traits, human traits that will make us more likely or less likely to succeed in our environment. The spirit of adventure is a big one. The more adventure we have, the more likely it is we will succeed. The more sense of humor we have, the more likely it is we will succeed. The more humble we can be, the more likely it is that we will succeed when faced and kind of the wacky things that happen living overseas. And I want to paint the field too dark here. Many people move overseas. I lived overseas. It was awesome. I'd go back in a heartbeat. And there are reasons why, but at some point in the future, my wife and I will probably move back overseas. And it's a wonderful, wonderful life. So many reasons, but again, that there are thorns in the rose bush. So we just need to be aware of that, and certain characteristics that we can either have. We have them, great. If we don't have them, we can develop them. We have to know what it is we want to try to develop, right? But so it's not an all or nothing. It's a big shade of gray spectrum to the other. The people who consider, this is a very interesting statement, but it's true. Most of the people living overseas or getting a foreign residency actually do very well on the quiz, because most people who themselves, I could never live overseas, I would never move out of the US or Canada, right? They're not particularly good candidates to do it anyway, right? So if you're even thinking the chances of you being successful when you move overseas are all high. And if we just add an element of knowledge and understanding to what you're about to face of, characteristics and employ, right, to overcome them, then it becomes either an even pleasant, fun process, a process of discovery, self-discovery for sure, but discovery things that make life in. And I'm a story that I think is indicative of transition, right? So let's just say you pick up and you decide to move to Costa Rica, and you live on this little stretch of beach, and I don't know, beach, there's this little block with that group, and you go up there the first morning, and you meet the maybe his wife's helping in the kitchen, and he's serving up coffee or whatever, and it takes a little while to get the coffee, and takes a lot longer to get the breakfast, but you're checking back, and the ocean's there, the waves are coming in, the breeze, and the palm trees are rustling. Oh, it's nice, right? It's beautiful, right? And 3 months later, you come up and you're like, "Where's my coffee? I'm really hungry. I want breakfast." Nothing changed except how you about it, right? When you got there, it was magical, right? And 3 months just wanted your coffee and your breakfast. The only thing that changed was between your ears, how you viewed it. And so if we call adventure eyes, or magicalness of the more we do that, nobody does it perfectly, but the more we do, the better our experience will be, because the reality is our perception of that, how we interact with is what determines our happiness and our satisfaction. I think those are maybe some general guides. We'll talk more about this on the webinar. Have some specific, very specific data points, ideas, that drill down into some of the very specific things you would want to look at. I'll give one example. If you're considering property, you need to check and see if water to all of ours and all of the faucets before you buy the property. In many cases in the tropics, they're not. Maybe the master's hot water, but the guest showers don't. Almost assure you that the water to the sink in the kitchen is only cold water. Almost never, even in very high-end homes, have I seen hot water sink, right? And maybe it's a big deal, maybe it's not. I mean, that's a value judgment that you, the consumer, get to make. But you only get to make that value judgment if you ask, no to check. And so we specific things bring to a webinar like the one we're going to have in a couple weeks, that we show people things that they want to check, and then give them the ability to download the Consumer Resource Guide, for example. It's an incredible document, and we have a residency guide as well, different residencies around the world. So we provide a ton of free resources, because you make a decision to do this decision-making process you go through, the more likely it is that you will be a happy consumer. Some of you will like our products, and you won't. I mean, the world's a big place, and you know, we represent a tiny little fraction of the world, right? But every time successful, happy transaction moving overseas, you know, everybody wins, including us. And so we provide these resources because we want people to make decisions. So that's a great reason to come to the webinar. It'll take an hour of your day, but if you're considering ship overseas, if you're considering simply moving overseas to work remote, and you're not going to buy a property, residency probably will be an important consideration. Culture and some of the factors there would likewise be something that you want to get your on go. So for a number of those reasons plus more, join us in the webinar. We really would love to have you come to that and see, start your exploration. See if you know, come into the exit and build kind of idea later this spring. Then, you know, make some plans to visit a year or two, because you know what, there's everything right about that. What happens if you decide to come visit a country is you have time and you visited a really cool place and met some really cool people. You know, like the downside of a trip to see a community or two, pretty low. The upside is, yeah.
Awesome information. And guys, again, I'll just point you down to the link in the description. Click that if you guys are interested in registering for the free webinar on February 4th. But you know what? Some people might be like, Cabarino, why are you only in like Central America? You know, people might be wondering, how come you don't have any US properties? How come you only have like Central American properties? And then people might also ask, like, why do you choose those locations? What is it about those locations that catches ECI, Mike Cobb's eye?
Yeah. First of all, we work only outside the United States and Canada because we really don't want to be in a heavily regulated environment that both of those countries are. Different states, different places have different regulations, different levels, of course, some less than others, some more than others. End of the day, there are a lot of folks that provide great inside the U.S. and Canada, and so you know we don't need to be there. We don't really bring anything extra special to the party, so to speak. You know, and you know, Asia, you know, Africa, other places around the world, incredibly wonderful places. I am a huge fan of Cambodia. By the way, my had a tremendous met with some developers, met with some real estate folks, just because I wanted to understand the industry and the business, as I thought we would do anything. The challenge from an operational standpoint, looking at Asia or even Europe and Africa, are time zones. Travel north to south, North America, South America, Central America, whatever. I mean, the time zones are all 1, 2, 3 apart. And so, you know, as a working organization, we can all be on the phone operating on the West Coast, have to get up a little earlier. If we need some later calls, we can handle it, but it's pretty tight. But the other, when people move overseas, general people back home, so to speak, whether it's parents or kids or grandkids, friends, and so continue a relationship with family. You have to do it in the middle of the night, right? If you're in Asia, you're always trying to figure out, when can we talk, right? But if you're South America and you're calling back to North America or vice versa, it's pretty easy. Well, my evening's your evening, my morning's your morning. So there's that. But operating a business on those is really important. Simply the logistics of travel time, right? You want to travel. I've done it a few times, and it's a long, hard, all day sometimes to get where you're going. Suddenly you're flip flopped around, and you're off or whatever. So again, the time to zones. We've been working as a development years. Our company is 29 years old this year, so we've relationships with many people in the countries that we work in, and those relationships are deep and long term at this point. So there are a lot of things that we as a company bring to that are very special and unique in the areas that we currently work that we would not have somewhere else. So that answers your question, Ryan.
Yeah, totally. I guess the other aspect that I'm curious about is, why did you select the properties that you selected? What was it about those particular properties that was captivating, also from like an investment perspective, everything like that?
It's really about two things. One, the magic of the place has to be magical. Or as I like to say, sometimes people will compliment me on what we've done at Grand Pacifica, for example. And I would say, well, 99% of the work, we come in and we build, some homes and some condos, right? And it's kind of tongue in cheek, but the truth is that, it's a beautiful, magical place, and we just fortunate to be able to acquire it, build a wonderful community, a village. We have built a village on a spectacular piece of property there. In Belize, we've got 3 communities that we've, and again, piece of it is that we build community. We build place is really important, but the place also, in addition to being, must lend itself well, village, to being, and so those two elements really drive where we decide to purchase a property and build a community. And then building communities a very, I would call it, in fact, I would say that the building of a community is our secret sauce. That's what we do better than anybody in the industry at the price points we do. There are some beautiful communities for wealthy people, and we don't compete in that space. We build wonderful beauties for class North Americans, properties that start, right around 149, but 150,000. Actually help folks with financing. We work with a bank, and full disclosure, I helped start that bank 2 years ago. But we work with, can provide mortgages to North Americans buying overseas. If you start with 150,000 property and somebody can put 35, closing costs, say $35,000 down, it starts to change the dynamic. Who can access that we build, and we've said, look, we want to serve the broadest number of currently being served in the marketplace. If you can write a check for $1 million, the world's your oyster, right? But we said, look, we can serve a clientele that isn't that, and them very, very well with a wonderful community that meets people's needs and expectations overseas, and to get as many thorns out of that bush as possible, right? We're not, we don't take them all away because but I think our company does a great job of dethorning, a lot of thorns in the rose bush for folks, but serving a middle class consumer with community in really magical locations. Beautiful.
Yeah, I guess that's another question that I had was, if someone doesn't have like the full 150 to put down, then I guess, they do have that financing option available to them. What if they were interested
Yep.
in like an Airbnb kind of deal? Could they like buy the property and Airbnb their residents out?
Yes, absolutely. I thought you were kind of going somewhere
Oh,
else with it. I was thinking that if somebody wanted to come down and rent for 3 months or 6 months, I'll just answer that very simply. Yes, absolutely. Many of our projects do long-term leases, whether it's a month to 12-month kind of leases. So for the true digital nomad who's not acquiring a property, they have opportunity, rent a home, rent a condo, again, in one of these great little communities, and enjoy the quality of life, the cost of adjustment, work from wherever it is, but be able to do that, renting. So that is certainly possible. But that if you are a property owner and you're not going to be using it year round, or you want to own it as an investment, sure, you can Airbnb it. We are rental management services. It's non-exclusive, so except in our Marriott. We're building a Marriott Belize right now, and that one is in the rental program. You must be in the Marriott rental program. There's no airing in that particular project, but everywhere else it's non-exclusive, and so many of our property owners do Airbnb themselves. I think probably the majority actually use our property and rental management services, but it is non-exclusive. So choose what's right for them.
dang, you've got all the bases covered. I need a bank in Belize. I'm gonna start one. I need a property rental. I need property rental management. We're gonna do that too.
Well, we've been in business a long
Mhm.
time, Ryan, as you know, and we've really tried where we can serve a clientele where there wasn't a service. I mean, people think about Airbnb. Think about Airbnb. Remind me about crypto before. Okay, if
Okay.
just real quick, but think about Airbnb, because in the United States, let's say you have a property in New York City. I know because I've rented Airbnbs in New York City, right? It's a keyless entry. If there's a real estate agent or a realtor down that deals with me, right? And when I check out and leave on Monday, you call Molly Maids, or it's already scheduled. Molly Maids is coming in the unit, right? In Latin America, maybe there's a realtor that'll do it. Maybe you probably don't want to depend upon electronic locks in a SALT era environment, right? Where maintenance of those things would be really, really hard to achieve. So you're going to have to give somebody a back, right? Molly Maids, like, show me one in Central America, right? There isn't one, right? Airbnb is definitely it's a great idea. A lot more work than we would imagine it to be, coming out of the service organizations already exist. So when we see a hole in the marketplace, as we call it, a need that needs to be served, we generally step up and try how to serve it in the marketplace. So that's one thing. On the crypto, I know many of your folks have crypto. We take crypto as payment, and we also work with an organization that will take and as a loan, where you actually get crypto. You get to keep your crypto. The Bitcoin, for example, is collateral for a loan, and so that Bitcoin continues to go up. You pay off your loan, right? But you get your Bitcoin back. That is huge. That is huge, because I think for many folks, including me, we absolutely believe one is going to continue to appreciate in value, especially as they continue to print trillions of extra dollars every year to fund everything and anything. So if we believe in cover that's going to continue to go up and have those assets, we can then use those assets to borrow money as a loan against a property, or we take crypto. If somebody says, "Hey, I'll give you 3 Bitcoins for no problem. We'll take your 3 Bitcoin, trade you for, give you the title of an oceanfront condo." But to borrow against it is there, and we work with some that as well. So.
Wow, that's badass. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's totally
it is.
badass.
But
and
Ryan,
you get the Bitcoin back.
I'm not bad. I'm not. But we've put together a team of people who are badass, right? I've always looked at my job building a team of people that are a lot smarter than me, and that's easy to do. So we just lots of smart people, and we get them to do the thing. And crypto was one element of where we found some great people. But yeah,
absolutely love that. And we're coming up on our time here, Mike, but I got one last question for you, and this is my favorite question because I'm really interested to hear your answer, and it's, where do you see ECI going over the next 10 years?
I like that question. I was asked once, and I really wish I would have watched a podcast before, because they always have this zinger question that I didn't know about, and the host laughing, and they're like, "All right, here comes the last question." It was a real zinger. Your question, Ryan. By the way, the question they asked me, and I'm not going to answer it. Well, no, I would answer it. Was, how much money did you make last year? What kind of question is that? And I'll answer that one real quick. Enough that I am absolutely blessed. That was my answer then. It's my answer today. Really blessed. And I think that that leads into the answer for each. We've been around for 29 years. In the process now of working what we call an exit strategy, which could be an initial offering on a major U.S. or European exchange to access inexpensive capital. A lot of times companies and founders of companies look at an exit strategy, an acquisition strategy, whatever it is, as an end point in the game. Myself, my business partner, a lot of our directors and officers of the company, we really look at this exit point, IPO, acquisition, the starting gun of where ECI goes to whole new level. And and the challenge for all developers in the region, which is we see underdevelopment, right, in developing countries, is access to inexpensive capital. It's very expensive to for commercial things. Is outrageously expensive, and it doesn't work. And big U.S. institutions, REITs, and other types of entities in the developed world really can't lend money very well privately. You have that do it, but even that, it's not very effective capital. And so by being a public company, access inexpensive capital, whether it's debt capital or equity capital, to tenfold, 20-fold over the next, over the next decade. So sometime in the next stage, we expect our exit strategy, whether it's an IPO or an acquisition by a much larger development, these the access to inexpensive capital, will grow our business many times forward because we have the ability, relationships, we have the expertise, knowledge, we have the client base to be able to really do this back is the access to capital that's affordable. Let us do it. So, and at our future, I just turned 60 in August, so I figure I'm good for another 15 years. Although they might try to fire me before, hold on as long as I can and be a part of everything that we have been doing. But looking forward to doing it at a whole once we get past that exit strategy.
You better be
point.
sticking around for another 15 years, Mike.
I will
All
be.
right.
I will
All
be.
right. Well, perfect, man. It was a total honor having you on. And guys, if you're interested, again, please click that link below to go register for the ECI Digital Nomad webinar. They're only taking an hour of your time and super captivating, especially the things that we've been discussing. You don't even need the full payment. You can get a mortgage, or you can rent even. You don't even need to put down a down payment. You can just go rent for a little while. The opportunities are endless. And even if you want to use it, if you want to buy the whole thing and then Airbnb it, I mean, there's so many opportunities for you that, I think it'd be silly not to attend this webinar and see what ECI and the opportunities that they're offering you. Mike, any final words before we jump?
No, man, I'm really I'm excited to be coming out to see you in April, and then I'm going to see you back on this side. I guess the exit and build is in Virginia this year, right?
That's right.
Yeah. No, it's going to be fun. We're going to see each other a couple times in the next few months. So, yeah.
Heck yeah, man.
Thanks for having me on. I love what you're doing. I love what you and John and Rebecca have created there. And truly, you guys get the voice of liberty and the voice of freedom, but not just the voice, because I think a lot of people are about the voice. You actually, provide pathways to concrete solutions and alternatives that are incredibly valuable, because I think a lot of people, quote unquote, get it, right? Oh yeah, whatever, it's not quite right. But what do I do about it? And you all have done a tremendous job of putting ideas and pathways for people, and that's why I love working with you guys. You guys are rock stars. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate that, and we love working with ECI. But I guess we'll be seeing you in April, man. Until then.
Yep. All right.
See ya.
See ya.
All right, guys, that was Mr. Mike Cobb from ECI Development. Total class act. I really can't think of a better person that I've worked with over the last couple of years here at Live Free Academy in terms of, our business partnerships. Of course, I have a lot of great business partnerships and a lot of people that I've really come to respect and admire. But at the top of that list has got to be Mike Cobb. He's an absolutely amazing guy. His background and story is absolutely awesome too. I wouldn't share it without, his permission and, him being comfortable to share it. But it's really, really remarkable, the man that he's become and where he is today. And I have nothing but the utmost respect and admiration for Mike. And I am glad that he'll be coming to my wedding, and that we'll be continuing our business partnership between LFA and ECI. Last thing I want to share with you guys before we jump is the Off-Grid Dream Life. Here I go with my JB. The Off-Grid Dream Life. Where is it? Where's the button? I got to click. But yeah, guys, Off-Grid Dream Life, they're doing an event, another webinar. Man, we're webinaring you guys out, but it's awesome because this is all very actionable, attainable information that's going to increase the amount of joy and fulfillment and success in your guys' lives. So I would encourage you guys to go check out the Off-Grid Dream Life webinar tonight. Go check out Jonathan's community, Earth Waking Village. Absolutely awesome. They do get into some self-development type stuff, and it is rather challenging. So be ready to turn a new leaf and work through some things. But me and my wife Elizabeth, we had an absolutely amazing time down at Earth Waking Village, and I cannot wait to go back myself. And they're doing a free webinar tonight. If you guys want to go check that out and see what their village is already about. So many people are, thinking about, how can I set up my community, or I want to join a community, but so many communities aren't even off the ground yet. Earth Waking Village is already off the ground. They already have structures for you to move into, and have the whole community built out with a pool and gym and all of these kinds of things. So check out offgriddreamlife.com. Please click the link in the description so we get a little credit, show Jonathan that we're sending some people his way. We'd really appreciate that. It helps the show. So if you're interested, we'd appreciate you clicking the link in the description. Also, click the link in the description for Cobb's webinar on February 4th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central. I think that's 3 p.m. Pacific. Whatever time zone you're in, go check out that webinar. They're sharing a bunch of great information. And, I'm glad that I got to share a lot of my background and history with you guys. You get to understand a little bit of where I'm coming from rough beginnings, in 8th grade, getting arrested to, eventually being the captain of my high school championship football team, and then becoming an atheist, then becoming spiritual, and then eventually finding my way back to Christ and being Christian, and, on my way to potentially going into the Orthodox Church. It's been a wild ride, and I'm glad that I got to share it with you guys so you have a little bit of background. But until next week, we'll have John Bush hopefully back in the saddle so we can rock and roll. If not, I'll be back with you guys. I wouldn't miss a week, even though he is. That's from The Sopranos, by the way. Like Paulie, it's actually a mixture. Paulie does this, and then Sylvia does this. So I always mix it in. It's like, oh, he better be back next week. Anyway, I will see you guys next week, regardless of whether John's with me or not. Hopefully he's with me, but if not, I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Bye.